What's up, guys? It's Nico here. Today I just want to do a short video on how to find a starting point for calories and macronutrients. So get a pen and paper out. We're going to do this in 4 steps. We're going to start out by finding out how many calories you'll need based off your goal, how much protein you'll need, then fat, then carbs. Let's go. First, we're going to start off by finding your ideal caloric intake. In order to do that, we're going to need a couple things. First is your BMR. That stands for basal metabolic rate. That's the amount of calories your body will burn at complete rest. Then we're going to find something called the TDEE, which stands for total daily energy expenditure, which is your BMR plus all the other calories you burn doing things like exercise or just moving around. There are many different ways to figure out these numbers, using different equations, taking different tests. You can even punch a few things on different websites and just it'll spit out a number for you. Today, we're going to use something called the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation. So take a second and pause the video, go to Google, and figure out what your weight and height is in kilograms and centimeters. So the equation is slightly different for men and women. For men, the BMR equals 10 times your weight in kilograms plus 6.25 times your height in centimeters minus 5 times your age plus 5. For women, your BMR is 10 times your weight in kilograms plus 6.25 times your height in centimeters minus 5 times your age minus 161. Just double check your math and make sure that you have that right. After we found our BMR, we find our TDEE using our BMR and our activity level. We have the option of using different multipliers. If you're sedentary with little to no exercise, you'll multiply that by 1.2. If you're lightly active, you'll multiply that by 1.37. If you're moderately active, you'll multiply that by 1.55. If you're very active, 1.725. And if you're extremely active, you'll multiply that by 1.9. So from here, we have to decide whether we want to gain or lose weight. In order to lose weight, we'll set the calories 500 below that number. Any larger than 500 per day, and we risk losing muscle and putting our body into starvation mode, which would make it harder to lose fat. In order to gain weight, we'll set our calories up to 500 calories above that number. Anything more, and we risk putting on more fat than quality weight. This plus or minus 500 is based off the fact that a surplus or a deficit of 3,500 calories will create either 1 pound lost or 1 pound gained. So 500 per day times 7 days in a week equals 3,500. Which is 1 pound, either up or down. So now that we've figured out how many total calories we want you consuming per day, let's start off by finding how much of those we need to come from protein. The amount of protein that you'll actually need will be dependent on the type of activity you're doing, how active you are, whether you're at a deficit or a surplus. But for our purposes, we're going to keep it in a range of anywhere from 0.8 to 1.5 times your body weight in grams. For example, I'm 185 pounds. I'm going to have 1 pound per gram of body weight, so I'll have 185 grams of protein. On the low end, I would do 185 times 0.8, and on the high end, I'll do 185 times 1.5. So generally speaking, the larger your caloric deficit or the less you're eating, the more protein you'll need. You might be saying, whoa, that's a lot of protein. Well, have you ever heard anyone say you need anywhere from 4 to 5 small meals per day? Well, what they really mean is you need 4 to 5 servings of protein per day. Since a serving of protein is anywhere from 20 to 40 grams, if you were to have 4 to 5 meals of 20 to 40 grams, it'll make it a lot easier for you to hit your daily number. So once we have our RDA in grams, or recommended daily amount of protein in grams, we multiply that number by 4 to get the total amount of calories we need for the day from protein. We're going to need this number later. Next, we're going to find your fat intake. But first, repeat after me. Fats won't make me fat. That's right. Fats won't make you fat. It's the excess of overall calories, not the excess of fat, that cause unwanted weight gain. We actually need fat in our diets for healthy brain and hormone function. So we all store and utilize fat a little bit differently. But the most common way to find someone's recommended daily fat intake would be based off their body type. There are 3 main body types. One is an ectomorph. That is someone that is thin or naturally on the slim side. They will be recommended 25% of their total daily calories to come from fat. There is something called an endomorph, which is someone that's on the heavier side, maybe a bit thicker. They're recommended 35% of their total calories to come from fat. And last but not least, there's a mesomorph, which is an average body type, or somewhere in the middle of the two. They'll be using something like 30% of their total calories from fat. So next, you'll select the one that fits you best, multiply that to get your RDA for fat. This number will give us our total calories we need from fat. And as mentioned before, in my last video, there are 9 calories per gram of fat. So we divide this number by 9 to get our RDA of fat in grams. Last but not least, now we will find your carbohydrate intake. Since we've already figured out how many protein calories we're going to get per day and how many fat calories we're going to get per day, and we've set a total amount of calories that we want per day, the remaining calories all go to carbs. Doesn't that sound great? So let's do some really quick math here. The equation for this is RDA for carbs equals your base calories minus protein calories minus fat calories. You divide their calories by 4 to get your carbohydrate intake in grams. Let's recap really quick. So in step 1, we found our BMR, which is our basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories our body burns at complete rest. From there, we found our TDEE, which is our total daily energy expenditure, the total amount of calories that we burn throughout the day. From there, we set our goals, whether we wanted to lose or gain weight, and it gave us our base calorie number. From there, we figured out the amount of protein that we needed per day based off our body weight. And then we found our fat intake based off our body type. And whatever calories were left, we got them from carbs. So keep in mind that these are all just estimates. We're all going to respond a little bit differently. Just because we did all the math right doesn't mean that these numbers are going to do exactly what we think they're going to do. But the best way to test them out is to just be diligent. So stick with the number, track, log, track your results, and see what happens. In order to really, these are all just whether we wanted to burn or figure out exactly how many calories your body.